Hello friends, welcome to Neetu's Library. Today we are going to listen to the second part of the story written by Sudha Murty, The Mother I Never Knew. The name of this part is A Difference of Opinion. I hope you're liking our stories, and if you want to further listen to many such stories, do subscribe to our channel and like it. So let's begin, friends. A Difference of Opinion. As he drove to Lal Bagh with Gauri sitting by his side, Venkatesh was drawn into the past and his marriage to Shanta. His wife was the only child for her parents, born after many years. Her parents, Surya Narayan Rao and Savitramma, had made special offerings to Lord Manjunatha of Dharamsthala and performed Naga Puja at Vidurashwatha before her mother finally conceived. Savitramma had wanted to name her daughter Nagalakshmi, but Rao decided to call her Shanta after his mother. Suryanarayana's employment in the government revenue department had several perks that surpassed his regular salary. Cereals, vegetables, oils, butter, everything was abundant and free. Government peons worked at his home and took care of the family needs. So Shanta grew up like a princess with her parents fulfilling all her demands. Her studies progressed and the family was transferred to bigger towns and cities until they finally ended up in Bangalore, where Shanta graduated with a Bachelor of Arts from Maharani's College. In the old days, most government employees in Bangalore resided in areas like Basavanagudi, Gandhi Bazar, NR Colony, Malleshwaram, Sri Rampura and Rajajinagar. However, Surya Narayana had decided to rent a house in Chamrajpet and buy a site in Jayanagar, which was a developing suburb that was still largely a forested area. People told him that it was an absolute foolishness to buy anything there, but Surya Narayana did not care and bought the site anyway. Meanwhile, he also became a member of the Basavanagudi Club. It was there that he met J.M. Rao or JMR, a Class 1 officer of Indian Railways. During his tenure in pre-partition India, JMR had been transferred to different places in the country. Along with the relocation, claimed the freebies of being a Class 1 officer. Free housing, multiple servants and free railway passes before buying a home in Basavanagudi and settling down in Bangalore. Shrewd Surya Narayana took an instant liking to JMR and his small family, an aged mother, a wife and a son, Venkatesh, of marriageable age. JMR's mother, Champakka, was a loud-mouthed old woman who had become a widow when she was 20. From that day on, she had lived solely for the sake of her son, and he had become the center of her life. A tough life had ensured that she was no less than a tigress protecting her cubs. Unlike her, JMR's wife Indiramma was so quiet and submissive that people often noticed this and commented upon it. Even JMR knew, for the strictness in the office, was meek at home in his mother's presence. Champaka happily ruled the roost and saved enough money from JMR's income. Upon retirement, JMR contributed money from his provident fund to buy the family 2 large sites in Basavanagudi in addition to their current home in the same area. Suryanarayana thought Venkatesh has a good job at the State Bank of India here in Bangalore. If Shanta gets married to him, she will stay in the same city and we can see her frequently. Besides, Venkatesh is an only child and we won't have to worry about sharing JMR's inheritance later. Old Champaka is stubborn, I know, but she is already past 80. How much longer can she live? Indirama is quite dumb and Shanta can easily handle her. Yes, Venkatesh is a good match for my daughter. Suryanarayana developed a close friendship with JMR very quickly and broached the subject of marriage within a few months. Old Champaka immediately approved of Shanta because she too was the only child of rich parents. A grand wedding was held. Nobody cared to ask Venkatesh or Indirama for an opinion. Suryanarayana was right about Champaka. Within a year of her grandson's marriage, she breathed her last in her sleep. The captain of the ship was no more. A few months later, Venkatesh was transferred to Mysore. That's where Ravi was born, his first son. When the family returned to Bangalore a year later, Indirama suddenly died of a heart attack. Soon after, JMR had a stroke that left him bedridden, paralyzed, and unable to speak. However, Shanta did not have to attend to him for more than a few months. Just as Suryanarayana had started to worry about Shanta's fate in case the old man lived long in that condition, JMR too passed away. Thus, Shanta became the sole mistress of the house within 3 years of her marriage, and Suryanarayana became the most senior member of the family. Venkatesh's musings came to a halt as the car reached Lalbagh, and Gauri remarked, "Anna, see how crowded it has become these days." Yes, Lalbagh was very crowded. Many people came to exercise there. It was no longer meant just for young lovers and old people. Venkatesh replied, "Isn't it natural? I used to come alone before, and now you are with me. That makes 2 of us. The population has definitely grown." The road near the west gate was convenient for a stroll and quiet too. Venkatesh and Gauri walked along the cement footpath in the cool and pleasant evening breeze. "Anna, you have travelled quite a lot. What made you settle down in Bangalore?" Gauri asked. "Well, I have been told that the letter J in father's name stands for Joshi, and that we are from some village in the Mysore state. But I really don't know much else, and I don't think that father did either. So we adopted any place that we stayed in, and we happen to like this city." "But why do we have so few relatives from your side of the family? Everybody I know is from Amma's side. Where are your cousins, uncles and aunts?" "You see, Grandma struggled to raise my father, and none of her relatives helped or visited her during that time. So when we became wealthy, Grandma didn't want us to go see our cousins or their families." "Okay, I can understand that." Gauri paused. "But what about your mother's relatives?" "You must understand, child. My mother was innocent and meek, but she was also very intelligent. Often you remind me of her. The only difference is that you speak your mind, but she couldn't. Those days were like that. In the end, Grandma reigned supreme in the family, and mother spent all her time knitting, embroidering, painting, and indulging in other such creative activities." "Anna, why didn't you even argue with your grandma?" Venkatesh said sadly, "For the same reason that you don't argue with your mother. It's because some people are approachable and some are not. My grandma and your mother belong to the latter category. It's no use talking to them. It's like breaking our heads against a wall. Their decision is final, whether right or wrong. We simply choose to stay quiet to keep the peace." Engrossed in conversation, the father-daughter duo realized that they had already completed one round along the pond. Avoiding the crowded road in front of the glass house, they turned back on the same path. "Anna, maybe things would have been different had Amma stayed at home," Gauri said, thinking of her busy mother. "Perhaps, but the truth is that we'll never know. Initially, Shanta was a homemaker. When Amma and Appa passed away, I had to take responsibility for my family and the inheritance I received. Grandfather came to your help then, didn't he?" "Yes, he did. Your grandfather, Suryanarayana, is a smart man. He made me take a loan from the bank I worked in and helped us to construct 2 commercial buildings, Gangatunga on the Basavanagudi site. Your mother sold our home in the area and we shifted to Jayanagar. Though the land and the money were mine, your grandfather was the mastermind behind the plan. He advised us to rent both the buildings to private companies. Even in those days, we immediately started earning a profit of 3 lakh rupees per month after the loan installment payments. Within 15 years, the loan was easily cleared. Now a software startup has taken the building on lease and we get 20 lakhs every month. Gauri interrupted. That is a lot of money. Yes, but your grandfather didn't stop just there. After the buildings had been rented out, he assisted us with our investments in the beginning. And I was surprised to see your Amma take to the business of investing like a duck to water. Over the years, her investments have returned more than 10 times the original money and she's bought new properties. Venkatesh didn't tell Gauri that except for the Ganga Tunga building, none of the new properties were in his name. They were in the names of Ravi, Gauri and Shanta. If we have so many good investments, then why doesn't Amma take it easy? Asked Gauri. Why don't I give up my job at the bank too? At first, earning money was a necessity. But now, working has become a habit. It's not that your mother needs the money. Her work really seems to give her immense satisfaction. That's why she does what she does. For years now, Shanta had never asked Venkatesh about his salary. She didn't care. She had much more money coming in. But the truth was that Shanta had never really worked hard in her life. Her strengths were her common sense and her sound knowledge of business, both perhaps inherited from her father. It wasn't child's play to amass wealth by investing in the stock market. While some became rich, others were completely ruined. Anna, what do you think of Veena and Purushottam? They may become our relatives someday. What can I say, Gauri? I barely know them. From what I have seen, their social work is restricted to the city. They distribute food to children in the slums or give speeches about children's welfare while ensuring media coverage in newspapers and television. All their activities seem public-oriented. I am not sure if they are genuinely concerned about social issues or helping people in other cities or villages. But even social work has become commercial these days, Gauri remarked. Yes, I know. I worry that a girl from such a family may not have integrity or dedication towards her work. That's what you think, Anna? I am quite sure that Amma and Ravi think differently. They walked in silence for a few minutes. The sky was getting dark when they reached the car and started on their way home. Venkatesh thought return to his transfer. He could quit his job, but what would he do at home anyway? A few hours later, the pleasant evening had turned into a warm night. Shanta turned on the air conditioning and thought about the meeting at the club that evening. She had praised Veena very carefully while introducing her. Veena had looked pleased after that. Their meeting was so professional. It was like one businessman meeting another. One daughter, one son. Shanta knew that Veena was thinking along the same lines, but they were both too clever to say anything directly. Shanta lay down on the bed and thought of her potential daughter-in-law. Was she beautiful? What would Veena and her husband give their daughter Pinky for the wedding? A modern discipline. Will she be able to find a job easily, or will she have to start something of her own? It's important for us to know. How will it help Ravi's startup, she thought. She tried to sleep, but couldn't. She turned to her side and saw Venkatesh sleeping blissfully. By this time, she knew about his transfer to Hubli. It's no use telling him anything, she said to herself. He will hate it if I tell him to quit his job, the job that barely pays him. I'll never understand why is it wrong to want to earn money. Or is he jealous that his wife earns more than he does? Maybe all Indian men think that the wife should work but her income should not exceed her husband's. She must be educated but less than her husband. The wife may be an equal but not higher than that. Disturbed, sleep drifted further away from her. When Shanta had married Venkatesh, the house in Basavanagudi was already very old. The family lived in a simple life on a tight budget under Champaka's watchful eye. There's such a big difference between those days and today, Shanta thought. But a glance at her husband made her feel bad. He never understood her or helped with the business. When his father died, he had not left a will, but Venkatesh had inherited everything since he was the only heir. Unfortunately, he had no idea of his father's finances. When they opened the bank locker after JMR's death, both Suryanarayana and Shanta were shocked. The locker was filled with gold, which had a thin layer of fungus on top, since it had been lying unused for years. The gold itself was worth lakh of rupees, even in those times, and yet the family had lived a miserly life. But even then, our status in society and the changes in our lives weren't achieved overnight. I have toiled day and night to achieve all this single-handedly, she thought proudly. For a moment, Shanta envied Pinky. Everything I have struggled to earn will go to my daughter-in-law one day. My darling son Ravi will also belong to that girl. Maybe I should share my concerns with Venkatesh, or maybe I shouldn't. He won't understand anyway. There was still no sign of sleep despite the cool air conditioning, so she tried to think of solutions. If the girl is obedient, she can be controlled, but that's so difficult these days. Also, I am sure that Veena's daughter won't be submissive. Let's see what happens when the time comes. The cuckoo clock chimed 3 a.m. Ravi had gifted her clock last year when she was in Switzerland for her birthday. Her heart filled with love and pride as she thought of him, and finally she fell asleep. The next morning, Shanta slept in later than usual. When she came out from the shower, both Venkatesh and Gauri were ready to leave for the day. Her husband for the office and her daughter for college. Shanta sat down at the dining table and sipped her tea. She waited for them to mention the transfer as she stared at the headlines in the newspaper. Venkatesh said, "I'll be leaving for Hubli this week." The head office said that I should be back in Bangalore after 6 months. He didn't ask her to come. She didn't offer to go either. "Where will you stay?" Gauri interrupted. "My friend Sunita Patil's parents live in Hubli. I contacted them, and they have promised to make some arrangement for 6 months. So that's it. Father and daughter have already sorted things out, thought Shanta. Just then, the household help Nanjappa called out, "Amma, there's a phone call from Ravi sir." Shanta forgot about everything and ran to the telephone. To hear the further part of the story, wait for the next audio. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.